Good day, listeners from all around the world. This is your host, James Jordan.
And Mike Wallace.
Coming at you for another edition of the Wide World of Motorsports podcast on CFMH 107.3 local FM in St. John, New Brunswick on Saturdays at noon. And on CKMS 102.7 Radio Waterloo in the region of Waterloo in Ontario on Friday mornings, a part of the Waterloo Region Podcast Hour, and on the Performance Motorsports Network app throughout the week.
You can catch us on all social media platforms, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, at the WWOMS.
As well as episodes on demand on all major streaming platforms. And our website, the Wide World of Motorsports Podcast.wordpress.com. This is episode 38 of season 5. And as tradition, we pick a driver with the number 38. And my driver is David Ragan, who has basically driven it almost every year since 2006. And we all know David's famous for a couple of his wins throughout the years in the 38. So at this point, basically a vet in the series. Who's your driver, Wallace?
I am going with the little-known Australian driver to us, but great-known Australian driver in Australia, the great Dick Johnson. He drove 7 races, 663 laps in his four-way into the Cup Series in 79 and 80, but he's best known for winning 4 Supercar Championships, a plethora of Bathurst 1000 races. So I didn't know he raced in the Cup Series, so I picked the legendary.
Nice pick. Couple of nice picks this week.
Yeah, that's always one of my favorite parts, picking numbers. We get to see some cool numbers. Speaking of numbers, number 22, Kyle Steckly, that's who we have on the show today. Kyle finished second in the APC series, and he finished second in the Friday night series at Delaware for the season. We spoke with Kyle in February, I believe, and I caught up with him, I think, in May at Peterborough, and we covered some things of what he's hoping to accomplish this year, his new tracks, his foray down south, and the possibility of running some Pinty's races. He accomplished or did all those, and we're going to find out how all that stuff went.
Sounds good. Let's get right to it. And we're here with Kyle, the kid, Steckly, coming out of Milverton, Ontario, on the Facebook chat. Hey, Kyle, welcome to the Wide World of Motorsports again. Welcome back.
Hey, guys. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, thanks for being here, Kyle.
It's always a blast to have you on. We've had you a couple times on in the past year. We had you on all the way back in February, and which hard to believe. I felt like it was longer ago. And then in the summertime when you're in the heat of things, and we watched you a lot this year, and you definitely were putting on a show. And there's probably a good amount of stuff out there that even our listeners and followers and viewers and whoever out there, you can check it out on social media and all the stuff that Kyle's done throughout the season on our social media page at the WWOMS. And I'm sure, Kyle, you got it on your social media page on Twitter or Facebook, or and the 22 Racing Facebook page as well. If anyone wants to check out what he does, it's out there for sure, right? Where are you at? Where can we get you at? Where can we follow you at?
Yeah, I'm on TikTok, Instagram. I'm on everywhere, pretty much all social media platforms. Twitter, Facebook, just Kyle Steckly, nice and simple. And you can also check out the race team at 22 Racing. They're on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. So yeah, check us out and follow along as we go through our racing season.
Yeah, there's a lot you did this year. And when we talked to you back in February, you had some goals, you had some stuff set in mind. I know you were at that point you were hoping to get a couple of races in the Pinties, and then you were gonna get into the Friday night series at Delaware, as well as APC series. So you had a pretty busy year planned ahead of you.
Yes, it was definitely a really busy year. It's the busiest year I've ever had in racing, but it was a ton of fun. Learned a lot of different laps at different tracks, so that was cool. But yeah, we had a busy season running the Delaware Friday nights. We had a lot of success there. We had, I think, 5 or 6 wins there and ended up second in points to Ray Morneau, so that was a lot of fun. And then obviously the full APC series, that was pretty cool because it was kind of my first year touring a lot. So that series
Mm.
obviously goes all over Ontario. So got to race at Sunset, Sauble, Peterborough, tracks I'd never been at before. So it was a bit of a struggle, definitely a learning curve, but made the most of it. Had a lot of good runs at different tracks. So that was a lot of fun to tour, and then got to run a Pinty's car, which was really cool. Just driving them are completely different than a late model, so it was a lot of fun. And made a couple starts, had some decent runs, not the best finishes, but had a good fourth place finish out in Saskatoon in the first 125 in my first race. So definitely it was a good year, a lot of racing, definitely busy, and just excited to get back to the track again next year.
Yeah, we watched. Jordan said it earlier. We watched you a lot this year. Of course, we have to take a moment and thank G-Force and Rogers for putting on great coverage for you guys.
Yes.
And it's such easy accessibility.
Just through
anywhere to
YouTube,
watch
the Rogers
races.
YouTube page, and
Yeah,
you could
and
watch. And the commentating is pretty good. The
yeah,
the
it was
camera
great.
shots are pretty good. We're able to watch a lot of that from wherever actually. Like
Yeah.
I should have been there as close as I am, but when sometimes you can't make it, it's nice to be able to watch it on YouTube. Do you ever check out those races on YouTube, Kyle?
Yeah, it's pretty cool. Everything's on YouTube and live stream for everybody. So I get a lot more supporters that, wouldn't necessarily
Yeah.
go out to the track on the weekends, but they'll throw it on their TV and watch. And then a lot of people from my hometown watch it. So that's pretty cool. Get people reaching out to me a lot, and I go back and watch pretty much every race after it's done. So it's
Mhm.
definitely nice as a driver to use it. You can watch, see what you think you did wrong, and just learn off it. It's basically free lessons of learning
Right.
what you did right and wrong and what other guys did right and wrong. So definitely something valuable for a driver and really cool for the fans that they get to experience it if they can't make it to the track.
When you go over the tapes, and we hear that a lot in sports
Mhm.
and among other athletes, they always say, "Well, we got to go back to the tape. We got to go." For you, when you go back, what are some of the things that you kind of specifically look out for when you say that you're looking out things that you did good, you didn't do good, or what other drivers did good or didn't do good? What are some of those things that you're looking out for?
Well, a lot of it's passing because passing people that's tough, especially in the APC series, how competitive it is. So I watch for that, how people do it at different tracks, how I could have done it better throughout the race. And racing's different than most sports because you don't get to see what you're actually doing on a TV coverage or YouTube or anything like that, where with hockey or baseball or any of that, you can see exactly what the guys are doing, where racing you can't see what the driver's doing, so you got to base it off looking at the car. And you can just look at like how the car's handling even, and how the driver is pushing the car if they're making it loose and tight, and watching those cars fall off as the race goes on. And I remember watching Sunset at the start of the year after I was done, and I was battling with Jake Sheridan my first time at Sunset, and I knew the tires fell off, but I had no idea how bad, and I pushed it for about 10, 15 laps, and I could see it as soon as I watched it. But
Right.
at the time, I felt I wasn't pushing it too hard. Flamborough, you can run side by side with the guy for like 20 laps and nothing happened, but I just killed the tires and ended up falling back to 10th that race. So that was a huge learning curve, saving your tires more. And so it was cool to get the help of watching the races over again and seeing what I did wrong and how I could do it better for next time.
Uh, Kind of a quick question, leaning on what you had said there about how you ran side by side, burned up your tires, but at Flamborough you could run side by side and you wouldn't run them out. Is something like tire fall off, per track? Is that something you can only learn through experience, or is that something you can gauge by walking the track, or how is that something you can only do by doing it, learn by doing it? Sorry.
Well, learning by racing is definitely going to be your best option, but you can get I've always got a lot of help from other drivers, JR Fitzpatrick and a bunch of
Right.
guys in the APC series have all been really helpful and helping me learn new tracks. So I knew Sunset was going to be bad on tires, but really Flamborough wasn't that bad ever. Flamborough is a pretty good track on tires, so I thought I was saving, and ends up I wasn't saving enough. So Sunset's one of the worst tracks in Ontario for that. They're hard on tires, so it's definitely tough. I knew it was going to be bad. I just didn't know how bad it was going to be and how quickly it was going to go bad. So it's
Is that a
something that
surface
it's something
thing?
yeah, I think it's the surface and just the banking of the track and the way
Right.
the track is shaped.
Mm.
It's kind of the configuration as well, but a
Right,
bit of
right.
both. So
Oh,
it's
okay.
definitely something that you can get a heads up, but until you race there, you don't know exactly what's going to happen.
And I suppose that so you're at Sunset in May, and then you're there again in August, and then same thing with a couple other tracks too. You're kind of at tracks in different seasons. Does that ever
Yeah,
play an
that's
effect
true.
in the tire wear as well?
Yeah, I think it does. I think I really don't have a ton of experience at other tracks, but I know at Flamborough the season starts off, the track is really fast, and then it kind of slows down, and then at the end of the year it gets cold again, and Frostfest people are really fast again. So the track kind of changes throughout the seasons as rubber gets put down and speeds get faster and slower, and the track changes quite a bit. I know Sunset Speedway, I feel every time you're there the track's different, so it's always changing. So that's a tough track to get a hold of for sure.
And then
That's interesting. I mean, I think that's what kind of is really makes racing so different compared to other sports. You might play on another field or whatever, but it's this
Indoor,
size by
outdoor.
this size, indoor, outdoor.
Yeah.
Baseball fields are different, but generally the playing surface is the same. Whereas in
Artificial
racing,
turf, real turf.
I mean, it's different minute to minute, right?
Yeah.
So, and the shape is never the same, unless you want to talk about cookie cutters. But so that's really interesting.
Yeah.
And also too, with Peterborough on the on there, and we were talking to you back in February, and you were saying you're looking forward to going there for your first time. How was that?
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. It's a tight little track. I think we had good speed in the car, and the race didn't go quite how we wanted. But overall, it was a really cool track. A lot different than Flamborough. It's really different than anything. So that was pretty cool. I liked it. I wish we could have went out there and ran the Autumn Colors Classic, but it just didn't work out this year. So I'm excited to be back there next year.
Well, while you were there, I had asked you because I knew previously we had talked about Pinty's start for 2022, and you said you were working on it. And then when I talked to you in Peterborough, you had spoke about more. You were working on things to get going. What type of at that time? What were the type of the things that you were working on to get into the car for Saskatchewan?
It was mainly just getting the car ready for me to drive and get it ready soon enough that I could get some testing laps before Saskatoon, as well as funding, sponsorship. Obviously, the NASCAR Pinty series is pretty expensive, and it's you need a lot more funding than you do to run the late model series. So we're just trying to put everything together. We kind of had our initial deal set with Quick Wick and APC and all of them. So it was kind of a later deal that we had to come up with, and we were just working on finalizing everything with that. And obviously for Saskatoon, Winging It came on board, so that helped out a lot. We finalized that with them right near the end. So I was happy to keep working with APC Auto Parts for the Pinty series.
So that's great. We'll get to that. I just wanted to kind of paint that picture of you were doing the APC in your Friday night, which you were battling hard
which is good because in some ways your season just started out for APC at that point, and you still got all that and the Friday night stuff left, and also
you have all that going on. That's crazy. That's a lot going on for a young driver too.
And lots there is so much. I mean, I'm sure with having all these other drivers as well that can name out Shay, can name out Jake. We can name out obviously Fitz. So I mean, there's also some pretty stacked competition in the APC in 2022 they get to deal with.
Yeah, definitely. It's pretty fun racing with all them guys. A lot of those guys have a lot of respect and race hard but clean. So it was definitely a lot of fun, and it was more competition than I had ever raced against before, and it made me push myself harder and harder. And every time, I remember after Delaware we finished the first Delaware we finished second in the APC series, and we kind of ran around like 7th or 8th all day and kind of got a lucky second place finish. And JR, I think, just won his third race, and we went to work all week after that, trying to get the car better, worked hard. We went to Flamborough for the second race, and we won it and had a lot of more speed in the second half. So the competition definitely pushed me to work harder and test, learn more things, and it definitely pushes you to get to that next level.
Could you elaborate just a little bit on what that means? Like, obviously the testing, but when you say dig a little bit harder, go a little bit, what does that mean? Is that just really digging into the tracks and setups and watching tape, or can you paint that picture for us a little bit?
Well, a lot of it was setup. A lot, like, setup work is a lot that people don't realize how much time goes into it, really. So we do a setup before every race, and normally a day or two long. And after Delaware, we talked to people, tried things, did different things, just trying things to see what would make the car better, talk to other people, some people in the States, just trying to make the car faster somehow, make it handle a little better, because everybody's so close that just you find a little bit and it can be the difference. So we were just working really hard, trying to get it to handle a bit better for me. And I was doing lots of research, watching tape, and seeing what I could do better as a driver on the track. But a lot of it is preparation at the track too. You got to have good preparation on that day to make the right changes during our short practice so that we have the best car we can for the race.
Yeah. When you go to a track with a setup, you're going to, let's use Flamborough for an example, because that track really well, and your dad probably knows that track really well. You're going there with a setup. How much will you vary from your starting setup, rolling the car out to sitting on the grid for the feature? Will it be a big swing change?
Well, hopefully not, but it all depends how we unload.
Oh, yeah, of course, right.
But a lot of times, it's not huge changes. A lot of times we're pretty close with our setup. We go with something that we're confident in, and we just have to make some small adjustments. And practice this year was honestly pretty interesting because of the tire shortage. There's a tire rule, so nobody knew what people had on for tires. Some people were cheating the rules and all that stuff. So we were always like 8th, 9th, 10th in practice, and we were like, oh, what are we doing wrong? And it was all a tire game. So we just had to make sure I was comfortable in the car, and I'd be comfortable for 100 laps and not focus where we were on the speed chart. So really, I try and keep the adjustments during practice down to a minimum.
And then all this information you have from this past season, and then you got even longer races for next season. Do you anticipate much of a big change in that aspect for the setup, or?
Not really. We just got to keep working at it. Try to. I would like to get more of a baseline, because last year we were kind of all over the board trying to get our car better. So hopefully this year we can find a bit of a better baseline and work off it and just keep our car more consistently. So, really, that if we can get a good baseline, that should help with reducing setup time, because we can keep stuff more consistent. Last year we were trying a whole bunch of stuff. Some stuff didn't work. We were changing it a lot. So I'd like this year to find a bit more of a baseline for our late model program and just work off it.
So if we look at your your Friday night series and your APC series for 2022. You came second to Ray Jr. and you came second to JR. I mean, I don't know. You can't be upset with that because those two guys are quite talented race car drivers. If there was something,
and it was fun to watch.
It was fun to watch this year. If there was something maybe that you feel you could have improved on to maybe be that little bit better than them, was it one thing, or was it just a collection of things, or were they just that much better this year because it was their year? Sometimes drivers just really, have that year. It was your first year in the APC series, so there's really not a whole lot to work on because come on, that's amazing. But is there anything you feel you could have worked on or learned? What did you learn that you need to work on and be better at for next year?
Yeah, looking back at it, I definitely see a lot of things that I could have improved or done better, just little things. But at Delaware, to come second to Ray, I'm happy with that. He's been racing there a long time. He knows what he's doing there, and he had a perfect season. I don't think he had one DNF, was inside the top 10 all the race, always fast. So he had a great season. We had likely 2 or 3 DNFs and had some issues, and our season wasn't 100% and didn't quite go exactly how we would have liked, although we had a lot of good runs at Delaware and a lot of speed. Overall, we had some issues. So just clean that up, do a bit more maintenance on the car. Maybe we got involved in one wreck. So try and be careful on the track, although I don't think we could have done much there. So the Delaware season went pretty good. In APC, I would have liked to, maybe somehow be a bit more prepared to go into some of the tracks I hadn't been at before, like Sunset at the start of the year. I think I could have maybe been smarter looking back on it and not ran so hard and got a better finish. And just little things you look back at that you wish you could have maybe done it this way or that way.
Right,
but
and it's not... Sorry, go ahead.
Overall, it was a good year. Not things I would have necessarily, I did wrong, just things I need to work on.
Right, yeah.
And that's not what I'm insinuating, of course. As we know in racing, you're always looking at the next one, right? It's the next race. What's next? What's better? How do I get better? I'm great, whatever. So I always I'm curious, and you're such a mature young driver that I just like to hear your responses, and you answer so well, and it's great to talk to you about that and see where your head's at, and it's fantastic. Smart, level-headed young driver.
And on top of, as you just said there, you're getting your first, you're touring around Ontario. You're traveling around. You're starting to get that under your belt, and then at the same time you're looking into some Pinty series stuff, and it has to be out west. And then obviously with you wrapping it up at Delaware, which was probably real nice. Another home game, I guess you could say, in the Pinty series. So you got the Friday night stuff, you got the APC stuff going on, and then you got some Pinty's opportunities coming on. Talk to us a little bit about how that developed.
Yeah, it was really cool. I've always wanted to run in the Pinty series, likely since I was 2 or 3, watching my dad at the track. I've been around it all my life, working on those cars. So to be able to get the opportunity to drive and race those cars this year was really cool, and really thankful for APC for making it possible and coming on board. I think we had some solid runs. I would have liked some better finishes, but there was some rough racing, and at Delaware got into the wall at the end there, and that ended our night. So unfortunately we couldn't have a good finish there, but we ran good, learned a lot, and those cars are a ton of fun to drive. They're heavy, the brakes kind of suck, and the shocks are no good, and they're hard.
We've heard that.
So
that's awesome.
It makes it fun for the driver, so it's definitely fun wheeling those things around.
And so you had Saskatoon twice, and then Delaware for the third time there. So Saskatoon's the first one. You started 4th, you finished 4th. Hey,
yeah, wow,
pretty good debut.
yeah, it was definitely good. It was fun running with those guys. We had about a 5-lap run to the finish there, and we were side by side, the top 4 for the last 5 laps. So we were battling hard. So that was a really cool moment driving with, I'm pretty sure his Ranger DJ Mark Antoine, Cameron, and me. So 3 guys that I looked up to growing up, watched them race. So that was a
Yep.
really cool experience. And then
And Trey behind
unfortunately,
you there too.
yeah. So unfortunately, the way they started the second race was based off times, and we didn't lay down a real fast lap at the start of the first
Right.
race. So I think we started like 12th. So
Yeah.
it was kind of just a struggle. I think we made up to 5th. We were slowly making our way up, and ended up getting in the wall on a restart on the outside of Watson, and we broke a tie rod. So that we limped to the finish, but yeah, that was a bit of a struggle. And then obviously Delaware, we were running about 5th or 6th, and then made contact with Cameron, which sent us into the inside wall.
Which was an unusual for people that night. I'll say it. That was Mike.
Well, the Saskatoon race was kind of had a little bit of ended off brawly, and there was a couple of cautions there, and then Delaware, that was what it was, and how crazy it got at the end there. So you had a little bit of a mix. You got to taste a little bit of it all, and then so in Delaware, yeah, you got. There was that. Was that after that huge crazy wreck that you got into the wall? So you survived through that.
Yeah. I just made it low underneath them, but that was definitely a wild scene.
That was crazy, man. Yeah. Yes. Good wheeling.
Yeah, I just seen the bottom of Ranger's car flying over top of Tag's car, and I wasn't thinking about it at the time, but looking back, that's all the work. Now we got to go back to work to get it fixed. But
right.
Oh well, that's racing. So I was lucky to get through that and kept my car clean for about 5 more laps.
Yeah, and especially with Tag, that guy was a teammate in that situation. For at least for us up in the grandstands, I don't know what your perspective was down there, but for me up in the grandstands, Walsh was in the pits, so me and him had a kind of different perspective. It was, it was like, wow, crazy wreck, and then things were touchy there. So when you got a teammate in a situation like that, do you know those? Do they tell you those things from the spotter stand, or those things that or?
No, pretty much I just knew that he was in the wreck, and I knew it was pretty bad. So I seen that. I think my spotter actually said that he got out and he was walking and seemed all right. So then that was good to hear. And he was
pretty bruised up, but he walked out all right. Yeah,
it was definitely scary whenever you see something like that happen. We got back to the shop, and there's a tire mark on the bar right behind his head, so that's a pretty scary moment for sure. But glad he walked away all right.
And so for that race, was that for a wreck? Was that one of the biggest wrecks you would have to say you've seen at Delaware?
Yeah, likely. I know there's a couple bad late model wrecks there, but that was definitely a scary one. Seeing the car go up like that and right over top of the other car was definitely scary to see.
Can I ask you a question, because I'm always curious. Obviously weight is probably the biggest difference between a Pinty's car and a pro late model. What other big differences are there between the cars, and what do you have to change for your driving style between the two?
So they're a lot heavier, what you said, but the brakes aren't as good. The brakes aren't near as good. The shocks aren't near as good. You have to use, in late models, you use bump springs, where in late model in Pinty's you have to use big springs. Then there's like a lot of the stuff just isn't as advanced. Like the rear end is still a Ford 9-inch rear end, and the motors have more horsepower in Pinty's, so worse brakes, worse shocks, older equipment, but then you got way more power, so you definitely got to wheel them more, and it's less. You can't carry momentum as much. So one thing I noticed is in 3 and 4 at Delaware, I could really roll the top well in my late model on a long run, where you can't do that in a Pinty's car because they're just losing too much speed up top, so you had to run the lower line all the time in 3 and 4, which in the end did hurt the tires, but that's where everyone had to run.
So would you say then for a Pinty's car, a fast lap versus a consistent lap, they would be very different then?
Yes. Yep.
Yeah. So I would assume though, even though it's got worse brakes and all this kind of like you said, that's just got to be an absolute ton of fun to drive at even at like Saskatoon, Delaware. I'm sure you tested it. Have you tested it anywhere else? Flamborough? Have you driven one at Flamborough?
Yeah, I tested one at Flamborough. Yep.
That thing that must be a lot of fun. So what can you carry over from the late model then? If it seems like it's that much different, what's a carryover?
Driving style,
Racecraft?
it's a lot different, but race wise, all cars race the same once you're racing.
Mhm.
Like all the racecraft, passing guys, running beside guys, it's all really pretty much the same. You just have to drive the car a bit differently, not drive it so hard, and just make the car more happy. In a late model, you can more abuse the car. Pinty's car, you have to make sure the car's happy.
And there was definitely some, in the Pinty series, in regards to abuse there at the end of that race at Delaware, you got to experience some of that. So yeah, I mean, you were up there. You're going last few races the last few laps at Delaware, and you're up there, and then what it was hard to tell from my perspective. I was so close to the fence by the start finish line, for the press to ready to get in. So I didn't see exactly what happened. What was the deal there?
Yeah, so I think after the big wreck, we restarted fifth, right behind my teammate Trayton Lapsevich, and I was actually pretty mad because he wasn't going. So we were getting held up there on the bottom, and later I figured out that he got into Watson, or Watson brake checked him, or something along the lines of that, and his hood got pushed up and he couldn't see anything, so that's why he was going
right.
so slow.
Yeah.
But at the time, I wasn't happy with him. But anyways, we went into 3 and 4, and I was on the inside of Mark Cameron, and we just touched a little bit in the center, and I'm pretty sure it knocked my toe out because I got back on the gas normal and it just pushed.
Right.
And so then we hit hard on exit and broke a bunch of steering components, and then obviously got into the left side wall. But as soon as we hit straight, my steering wheel just grabbed and hooked, and I couldn't do anything at that point.
Yeah, it was real crappy seeing that finish there. We're obviously hoping for a better finish for you there in Delaware, and more to take on for next year as well in that track, and for other cars too, whatever you're going to do there. But so going back to with Trey, now I've seen you guys work together very well in the paddock, walking around. You guys have a very good unit with your teammates as well at 22 Racing, and as well as the crew. You're seeing you guys building friendly rivalry, or building some sort of foundation, obviously for years to come as well. What's it like starting out with that?
Yeah, it's awesome to have good people around me, working with Trayton, helping out with advice, and what we are doing to the cars setup wise is great, and he's a great teammate, and happy to have him at 22 Racing. Obviously, he's done great for the team the past 2 years, so it's nice we kind of came from the same background in late models and short tracks in Ontario, so working with him is always cool, and done stuff on iRacing together, so we've created a good friendship, and looking forward to working with him in the future.
Yeah, I was going through the paddock, and I was able to snap a pretty cool shot of you guys, Trey kind of in the back and you in the forefront there, working on stuff. And it's seeing you guys now, and hopefully in the years to come, seeing more of that. Real pumped to see that. And future rivalries are friendly. Yep. A rivalry doesn't have to be a negative connotation with it, right? That's what builds good racing. That's what builds a good, in all of sports too. That's what builds good entertainment and good sportsmanship too, and whatnot, and team building. 22
Yep.
Racing. You both are in a position to be able to take that team into the future, as you got Tag to lean on still, and there's other quote unquote senior members there as well. And these guys can help you go, like trips down south to Five Flags for the Snowflake. And then that sets you up for that opportunity for success. What was that like going down for repping Ontario, repping Canada, going down south? What was that like?
Yeah, it was a pretty cool opportunity. We started to put it together at the end of the season and put a lot of work into it to try and, obviously be fast and compete with them guys. And put a lot of work in at the shop with all my crew, and we went down there, made the trip down, and we ran all right. I think our expectations were a little bit higher than where we ended up, but we just struggled with the setup. Obviously the loads are a lot different there. The track's like nothing in Ontario, so it was a big
Right.
learning experience. We still qualified 11th, which we had a really good qualifying effort, and then we ran inside the top 10 to start the race, and then the car just fell off as we went on about lap 40, and it just got worse and worse, and we ended up 22nd after a spin, and just wasn't quite the way we wanted it to go, but we struggled all weekend. But what an experience it is down there, that's for sure. It's like none other.
What is it? What's the difference for the competition when you go down to a race like that? When we'll hear, if like road racing a lot, IMSA particularly, or IndyCar, and you'll hear those guys talk about the difference between North America and Europe. I'm just curious, is there a difference between, Canadian short track and Southern short track racing, or or what's the caliber of driver that you're coming up against when you hit that track?
There's definitely a difference, but it's still pretty similar. It's kind of like racing against 60 JR Fitzpatricks with the best car out there. So
Okay.
Okay.
it's tough
All right.
for sure. There's no slouches. Everybody's got top of the line equipment, no money
Right.
spared on anything. The people are absolutely nuts. All they do is race.
Yeah.
It's their life, even more than us up here. We get the winters off, but that is all they do. They work on it nonstop, and it was pretty cool. There's guys like Noah Gregson and Eric Jones and
Yeah.
them guys, William Byron in the snowball, and they were bringing their cup engineers to the snowball
Right.
derby to
Yeah.
try and get just a little bit of an advantage,
Right.
find something here aerodynamically. They have a lot more little things that they do, and everything's just a bit bigger down there, longer practice. That place was packed on Thursday night for sportsman racing, and there wasn't even anything to do with late models, and I don't think there was a seat in the place available. So it's pretty
That's
cool
awesome.
to see what they do down there, and like 130 late models, and then they had sportsmen's, outlaws, modifieds. It was just nuts.
Yeah, I bet you
That's super
there's a
cool.
fan side of you too that probably comes out of that as well, right? I mean, you're obviously a fan, so you get to enjoy some of that as well.
Yeah, it was really cool. I've watched that race for the past couple of years, and we made the trip down last year to watch, and it's just what an event. It starts Wednesday with tech, then you got practice Thursday, Friday, obviously qualifying Saturday, and then the race if you make it in. And their last chance races those are wild. I'm glad I didn't have to be a part of that, the 50 lap last chance races. So that was cool to watch on top of the trailer before we got going. And yeah, it was just Saturday went well. We qualified well, and I was ready to go, and then we got in the car at 7. I was ready to go, and then the rain came, and there was
Yeah.
about a 5-hour delay, which was kind of sucked, but we made the most of it. And I got a little nap in before the race,
Nice.
and we we're ready to go at 1 a.m.
Oh man, that's got to be hard. Like, how do you wake up? We talk again, going back to the sports car racing,
Which
and
totally
endurance
makes sense in
racing.
this case.
It
Oh
do-
yeah.
it does. That wake up sometimes at 1 a.m. Hey, it's your turn. You got to get in the car. You got to be on. Was there anything you had to do different, or was it just? And you can be honest. Was it just like, yep, this is awesome, because I would wake up at 1 a.m. and be like, I'm ready to go. This is sick. I
Right.
get to go race the late model.
Yeah, luckily I had a bit of time. I had a nap right at when it started raining. It was raining hard, and then I woke up, and then about 10 minutes after I woke up, I was 100% ready to go again. Just
That's awesome.
the atmosphere there in the event, I was fired up, ready to go. We finally got the car working better, I thought, and then
Mhm.
it was fun running up there with those guys for the first 40 or 50 laps, and then the car just went away on us. But learned a lot setup wise, driver wise, what the track does. So really hope we get the opportunity to do it again, and hopefully run a little better in the race.
And sometimes that's even
No, go.
sometimes that's even worth more than a win or a second. It's getting that knowledge, getting that experience in, because especially down south, and those the memories too. I'm sure you have family members and friends down there with you as well. That's got to be a milestone too in your life as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, the first race I made in the States, and Dad did the same type of deal when in 1996 with his late model. At the time, he went to Volusia Speedway, and that was one of his only starts in the States, and he always talks about it and looks back on it. So it's pretty cool to make a start in such a big event, and I'm sure I'll remember it forever.
Well, hopefully you'll get to go down and do the Snowflake again, and maybe get into the snowball
at some point. You got lots of time.
Yeah, yeah, you got lots of time. Bringing it back. I'm just curious about the snowball is 300 laps, and bring back to the APC series for 2023. We're looking at some races that are no longer 100 laps. We got 150. We got a 200 at Delaware. What does something like that mean for the series? To start bumping up lap numbers.
Yeah, I think it's great. There's a lot of people interested in the series right now. The series is growing, so it's just going to be another thing that's going to get more fans interested in. There's going to be more strategy involved in it, and it's not every race either, so it's not like it's really hard on the teams. It's just a couple of races, which is definitely a good way to start. I think the shorter distance 100-lap races are still great and better for some teams who are smaller and a bit less funded. They only have to buy one set of tires. They don't need as many crew guys. But I'm really excited as a big team. We have lots of the guys at the track to help out and lots of support, which I'm really thankful for. So I'm really looking forward to getting to do these longer races, play a bit of strategy, and hopefully make it a bit more exciting for the fans, which I think it already is, but it's just going to add that much more.
And so that kind of sounds like, so now I guess we can kind of segue into 2023 plans.
Sorry, yes, I guess I segued us.
Well, no, because this is a good transition, because it sounds like throughout, as we've been talking in this interview, it sounds like that your goals, your mind is still set on the APC for 2023. And when we talked back in February, that was kind of your goal was to get a championship in the APC series, and you came extremely close, and all the hard work and that was put into that as well. It was great. But is there a part of you that's like, hey, I still got a chip to go for?
Yeah, definitely. At the start of the year, I set my goals high, which I think that's a good thing to do. I'm going to continue to do that. And I wanted 2 championships, and we came awfully close. I think I finished second too many times. So we're going to be back in the APC series running for a championship in 2023. And, we're going to put a lot of hard work in it over this winter to try and make that goal come true.
And does that also mean, and on the side, are you going to do the Friday night at Delaware? Are you also going to still hope for a couple of select Pinty's races as well?
Yeah, both of those we're still working on finalizing what we're going to do there. I'd love to run more Pinty's races. Those cars were a ton of fun to run, and I was able to test one at CTMP at the end of the year, which was really cool.
Ooh, perfect. And that's, yes, because when we spoke really to you in February also, you said that was road course racing was kind of another focus, because as we saw this year as well, and in the past seasons, how crucial some of the street circuit, the road courses, how those play effect, especially when you're racing with a Kevin Lacroix, when you're racing against an Andrew Ranger or a Tag, when you got these road course guys as well, that testing time, and when we saw that on social media, your testing time there. Talk to us about the testing time at CTMP.
Yeah, it was really cool. It was an open test day, so a lot of like Subarus and Mazdas and other cars were out there. So it was kind of cool to be on track with them and going down the Andretti straightaway, blowing by a Lamborghini or a Porsche. So that was pretty awesome. Cool. But the speeds there are nuts. So I had a thing in my car and it said I was going 257 kilometers an hour down the back straightaway
Oh my
at
goodness.
CTMP going into turn 8. So it was a ton of fun. I love shifting. I love the high speed corners. You'd go through the corners at like 7,000 RPMs, which you don't do that in an oval because you're not shifting, but you'd shift down to third, down to second, go through 5A and B. That track is a ton of fun. The elevation was a ton of fun, and I got some help from Daniel Bois at MPS Motorsports.
Right.
Those guys were out and picked up pretty quick, I think, and we're running some decent times at the end. So hopefully I get the opportunity to race at CTMP this year and
be awesome.
see what
That
we got
would be sweet.
for those Frenchmen.
Yeah, right. Because the Quebec drivers they've been saying, "Hey, we're the road course guys." We need, and it seems like that in the Pinty series. It almost sometimes seems like it's that elusive Quebec versus Ontario or the rest mentality. And then we're seeing that. And as I'm just a fan of it all, but I can see that there are fans that might go, "Hey, let's show these guys a little thing or two." So, and also too, I mean, the first time we're mentioning iRacing, how many minutes has it been, Wallace? It's been 43
Not
minutes.
enough,
Right?
probably.
So
Probably
also,
not.
and I'm sure some of the stuff that we're seeing as well, we're seeing more of these invitational events as well. And as much as we hear from all these drivers that iRacing is a good practice and whatnot. And hey, I got some good practice potentially for you, Kyle. I know it's not CTMP, but the Rolex 24 on iRacing is that sometime, I think it's like the second to third last week into January. We're looking
put
for
you on the spot so you can't say no.
no. Hey, I was just going to say we're looking for other drivers is all I'm saying. So we would kick out anyone.
Okay,
I would kick Wallace out for you any day. So let's so if you ever want any of that practice, the WAMS esports team would gladly run with you, because hey, any kind of practice is good, right?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I'd absolutely run with you guys, but I think you might be better off with Wallace. I don't know if I'm too good at road courses. You might want to get someone else.
It's easy. It's
you
got
can't be that
ABS,
bad.
It's got traction control. It's got a flappy paddle gearbox.
Right.
You're fine. Headlights. It's great. It's not a problem. You'll be fine in it.
And
that's
so
great.
Yeah, and overall, it looks like there's always still and we hear this everywhere in sports too, is there's always room for improvement. We hear from the vets. We hear from, you always hear from Tom Brady. You hear from all these. You hear from Jimmy. You hear from all these greats that say, "Hey, I'm always learning. I'm still learning," and there's always room for improvement. And it sounds like, hey, the last hour, it sounds like you've got it pretty somewhat figured out on what you need to do. Sights are already set on 2023, and it's a couple weeks away from the end of 2022.
Yeah, definitely. I'm just been thinking about 2023 since the 2022 season ended, and what we got to do this winter to make it better for next year. Just keep getting more organized, keep putting more work into the car, try more things. So I'm excited to get everything put together, work on the car over this winter, and have a bunch of stuff to try come testing season in March.
Yeah, and for our off season up here, for our listeners that are not this far north, unfortunately we have so long to wait. But in some ways that sneaks up on you as well, right? So you and also with all the resources at 22 Racing too, I'm sure there's lots of happenings that are already going on that will be going on, and too following it as well with seeing stuff like the year in review on TSN. I don't know, I haven't seen that yet. I'm not sure if you were in that one or not, or I'm sure you were somewhere in it, or you better have been. And then on also a front of on social media too, seeing you through 22 Racing and your own social medias. So, and as we said in the beginning of the show, if you want to just let our listeners know again where we can follow you throughout the season, other than at the WWOMS, where can we follow you?
Yeah, you can follow me at Kyle Steckly on all platforms, or 22 Racing. The team's always posting stuff about the races in the Pinty series and the late model program. So either my personal account's always sharing stuff, Kyle Steckly, or 22 Racing. And yeah, I'm just really lucky to have have 22 Racing to use. I have a lot more tools and tricks and tips from people that I can take advantage of, and I'm just trying to take advantage of every opportunity and option I get to use and make the most of it.
And especially from, I mean, how can we forget to mention, your sponsors like Quick, APC Auto Parts Centers. You got lots of people backing you and lots of good support. Obviously we you're probably very thankful for them as well, right? A Quick. I'd say that, like, I think a Quick, and I see you're 22, right? So. You should be there. You should be there on their posters and stuff and on their products. What's going on here?
Yeah, well, there actually is 4-packs that I am on. So
really?
You can get Quick 4-packs with a picture of me on it, teaming up with Kyle Steckly on it and everything. So yeah, those are available and they're in APC stores actually. So if you want those, check out an APC Auto Parts store and pick up some Quick fire starters with a picture of me on it.
I will be doing that next year, 100%.
Yeah, I guess I'm Googling where there's looking up where there's one nearby. That's going to be awesome.
Yeah.
Hey, Kyle, man, it's always good to have you on the show and to be able to have, you throughout the year and, kind of see your progress. And it's very impressive to see where you've improved and to hear where you need to improve as well. And at least for me, and I know on behalf of Wallace too, like, all the best in 2023, and we're going to be pumped to be able to follow that.
Yeah, no, thank you guys for having me on. I love chatting with you guys about racing and what's happening with my series and schedules and all that. So looking forward to 2023, and I just have to thank all my sponsors, supporters, crew, everybody that makes it possible. I've got the best group in all of Canada, I think, with APC Auto Parts and Quick. I don't think there's any two better sponsors, supporters out there in the series. What they do for racing in Canada is absolutely amazing. So have to give a huge thanks to them. Obviously, AW Millwright, Stewart's Equipment, Herb, they all supported me a lot this year, all my local sponsors and my crew and everyone at 22 Racing who puts in a ton of work each and every week to make the car a little bit faster every time I get out there.
Sounds awesome. Hey, yeah, thanks to everyone. Thanks to you, Kyle, and we'll see y'all down the road.
Thank you.
And we were just listening to our interview with Kyle Steckly, driver of the 22 Racing team, races in the APC United Late Model Series, as well as Friday nights at Delaware, and a couple of Pinty Series races under his belt now. And as we just heard from him, it sounds like full APC for 2023.
Yeah, it sounds like they got that all sorted out, which is fantastic for Kyle and the team. I think it's a great place for him to continue to learn and grow as a driver. I think we saw that this year. I think from the beginning of the year to now, he's the same guy, but he's just so mature for his age.
Seasoned.
Fantastic. Seasoned. That's a great word.
Seasoned from the one season already he's got under full time under his belt there. And it also sounds like he's got some signed deals, not so much set in stone right now, but working on getting it set in stone.
For Pinty's, so for some Pinty's runs next year, which is fantastic. And he might have hinted at a track where he might run a race in the Pinty's series.
Yeah, you said
CTMP. Left and right. Yeah,
CTMP test there, and that sounds hopeful. And any sort of test or whatever like that, and in any sort of racing, we always, as a fan or in media, you always look into it and you question, like, where's that gonna be going to? So that kind of seems like that could be a possibility, is the Victoria Day weekend or the Labor Day weekend CTMP race for Kyle
Ouch.
Steckly. Like we were talking to him, we had him on earlier in the season that he wanted to get into road course racing. He really wasn't able to get around to that this season, but now that he's gotten a couple of oval races and the Pinty's under his belt, now he can maybe look into a couple of road races, figure out that, as we were saying, that there's so many drivers, there's so many tracks that could decide a championship. He needs to get that under his belt as well to be able to be that full-rounded driver for the Pinty Series.
Yeah, and I think he's well on his way to doing that, right? He's only, again, I say he's only 17, so he's got a lot of races ahead of him, and he's
Growing in the right direction, no doubt.
He is fantastic. He's just hearing him talk about, I'll take Sunset for an example, as when he was talking about running there and realizing that he ran a little too hard too early. So this year, or 2023, when we see him there, I'm sure he'll take a different approach. And that's a seasoned driver, like you said. So 23 is going to be really exciting for him. I don't think he'll have any issues securing a drive or two for the Pinty Series in 23.
Absolutely not. And with things like the Snowflake under his belt, that'll help him. And also hearing him talk about, how the car handles and things about the car, now that he's been able to actually do it, he knows. And we could hear that confidence in him, adding on to how he sounds like he's more seasoned just in that one season. That there's that confidence, there's that adds a whole lot into your step and to the whole game of everything too. That changes your game up. That helps you drive a little better. That helps you learn a little better in those hard times. And it sounds like Kyle's had a few of those opportunities just in the 1 year that he's already had. So interesting to hear what 1 year can actually do for these race car drivers. Yeah, and even just up here in Canada, in Ontario. In Southern Ontario, we can see how important that is, how grassroots racing, how important that is in developing young drivers for the future, the next generation of drivers, if you will. And you will be able to follow Kyle Steckly throughout the season, of course, throughout his social medias and through our page. I'd like to thank Kyle again for coming on the show. And you'll be able to, if you're listening to us on CFMH 107.3 in St. John or 102.7 CKMS and Radio Waterloo in Kitchener-Waterloo, Ontario, you can check out this on demand on all major streaming platforms, as well as social media at the WWOMS and our webpage, the Wide World of Motorsports Podcast.wordpress.com. Well, that just about wraps it up for this edition. This is your host, James Jordan.
And Michael Wallace.
We'll see y'all around the bend.
Adios.